I'm super excited about this next project. I have learned how to make border paper and with the Cricut and the Gypsy. And this is the border paper that I created with the Gypsy, and I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a tutorial as to how I did it. The first thing is I have the Winter Frolic cartridge, and on page 57 in the entire cartridge they have borders, and on page 57 there is one that is supposed to be the background for some snowflakes, and I use that as it's kind of like a bubble image. And what I did is, if you can see it, is I actually put that all the way around a square, and I welded it to the square, and I welded it to each section, and then I cut it out just like you would a border, except it was on the Cricut. So I'm going to try to show you how I did that using my Gypsy. Alright then, so the first thing that you need to do in order to make your border paper is to select a square. And in this case, I have the Plant and School book came with my Cricut, and so I went ahead and selected that. Here goes my screen. And the first thing you do then is you will resize your square, and the perfect one to start with, perfect size, is 10 inches. It could be 10 inches width or 10 inches high. And okay, and so what the deal is, if that turns out to be a little bit larger, once you start putting the border on, it's okay, because once you put it all together so that it's welded, you can reduce the size to fit your 12-inch mat. So I always start like about a 10-inch, and this works really well for me. So then the next thing you need to do, once I've got my square set, I go back to my cartridge, and I need the Winter Frolic. Let's see where that's at. And there we are. And it's going there, and then I select the border, and the border that I want is the one, like I told you, it's on page 57, and here it's right there. And I select, actually I know that I can put at least 4 crossed, so I'm going to go ahead and select 4 so they stay together. Okay, and I'm going to bring that in, and they're down here. Slide that up, and I think I probably could use another one without a problem. So I'm going to go back and select one more. Alright, so now I've got this whole strip, and I'm going to enlarge it a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And you can see how it's up there at the top, and I'm going to slide that over so it pretty much is even with that square. And every one of these are not connected together yet, and because I want it to be welded even together as a section, not only to the square but each of these segments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup them, and then I'm going to do one at a time, and I'm going to use this arrow right here, and I'm going to slide them over just ever so slightly, and this keeps them all in the same line. Okay, so that should weld there. I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way over. Okay, so I haven't actually done that, but once I've done that, I'm going to then see if I need to add any more to the other end, and if I do, I'll add to the other end. Once I've done that, and I'm just going to show you this small sample right here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to group everything that's up there on the top. And in order to do that, all I do is I take that and I group them all. So we've got 3 at this point, but there's going to be more than that actually. And these are all exactly where I want them. So I take my button off so it stays grouped. I will then go to the advanced, and what I'll do there is I will weld. Well, actually, be honest with you, I don't weld yet. And the reason for that is because I want to do all 4 sides. So once I get that whole strip across the top, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to put those on all four sides by duplicating it. Right now it's not big enough for me to do that, and once I've duplicated it and I've put it on all four sides, I then am going to be coming back here and selecting the square and all four sides, and then I'm going to weld them. And then just to double check to make sure that they're where I want them to be, I'm going to use the eye and make sure that that it's all welded where I wanted it to be welded. Once I do that, I've already made this. I believe it's in. Okay, now I've got it to where I want it to be to show you what I did. Okay, so if you can see on the screen, now I have it so that it's welded all the way around in a square. And then from that point, all you have to do is take it to your Cricut and plug it in and cut it out. And you will have a bordered paper. Now you can do that with any element as long as it works. And in this case, it worked really well for the corners. I've also done another one, but I didn't have the pieces for the corners. And so I will show that to you another time, but I just want to give you a little bit of an idea of what you can do. It does take a little while to make this, but the next time you want to do it, you've got it saved in your Gypsy, and it's really easy to use. So that's it. Okay, so to go with the border layout that I'm going to be doing, I'm doing another technique, and it is the strip paper, and all of this is scrap. And what I'm doing is I am putting one layer on at a time and taping it down, and then I'm going to be taking it to the Cricut, and I'm going to be cutting out designs to put on my layout. Okay, so I cut out my stars, and here they are, what they look like once I cut them out. So there's not a lot of different color to them because the strips were medium size and my stars weren't very big. But what I used was the Graphically Speaking star, the one that has two lines to it, an inside line and an outside line. And so the stars, I cut them all out using the inside line on the Gypsy, and then I hid the outside line, and then I reversed that and I hid the inside of the star so I could make a shadow for these stars. And I'm going to be putting those together so you can see what they look like. So I have some of the stars together, and what I forgot to tell you is when I did cut these out, because it's twice the paper, like I put the strips on top of another piece of paper, I taped them all down. You have twice the thickness, so when you go to cut them out on your Cricut, you need to cut it out at the multi-cut 2. And that way it'll cut through the thickness. And I just wanted to let you know this is what the stars look like when they have their shadows on them. I'm also going to be adding some botanical light images, and the ones I'm going to be doing is the very first one down here at the bottom is the flower 14, and the first image is the just the regular image, and it's done in cream. And then the next image is a shifted image. It's the shadow, and it's done in black. And I did the same thing for the one on top, and that one is called the snail because there's a teeny tiny snail right down here. And again, it doesn't really like to cut the tiny things out really well, and it did do some tearing and I had to do some cutting, but it would be a lot nicer larger. And these were cut at like 2.5 inches. So I just wanted you to know that. And then this is what they look like once you put them together. Okay, so here are the finished layouts with the border paper and the cutout stars and the die cuts that I did from the Botanical Light cartridge. You can see them. There it is, and then there's the second one. I did 2. Okay.